Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, joining you here on a Victory Monday with my good colleague, friend, and pal, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Mr. Brian, how are things?
Things are excellent. As I mentioned to you earlier, it was a near perfect weekend, and the only reason it wasn't perfect is because there's no such thing as perfection.
Almost near perfect weekend.
Yes.
I know, before we jump into the pros, what'd you think about the game at Wrigley Field, Ohio State, Northwestern?
How annoying was that? That was the most... First of all, no, I didn't like it at all. I hated it. It was very annoying. I thought it was dumb. It looked dumb. I would have been annoyed if I was a fan that paid to go and was like in the sideline seats and I'm 60 feet away from the field because of the stupid outfield. No, it was terrible. I was like, come on, Northwestern. All you colleges. I know my daughter went to Fairleigh Dickinson. It cost me $130,000. All you people overcharged for your damn education. You could pay $2 billion to get your new football stadium or get some Northwestern. Yes, I'm ranting. I don't care. It was annoying. There you go. That's why it wasn't a perfect weekend. It was dumb.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't tell you I was going to bring that up. You got a couple more college games. You got a Yankee Stadium game. You got another one at the Rose Bowl coming up here this weekend too. So I
don't care about them. I don't watch those other ones.
There weren't. They didn't fill Wrigley Field from what I saw. There was a lot of empty.
No, and the people that were there were all from Ohio State.
I know. Isn't that crazy? It's like such a special game. And I get Northwestern's like a 500 club or whatever, but just made me think of that first things first. As you said, it wasn't a perfect weekend. I knew I could find something for the old man to yell at the clouds about. So, but you know what? You were a little feisty yesterday too. I know it's gonna come out on this show a little bit, but you got to be still happy. Classic Ravens Steelers football where it's a close score and the Ravens still lose. Ravens have lost 8 of the last 9. Lamar has lost the last 4 straight starts against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who seem to have his number. And I understand that some of these games you've had the Tyler Huntleys, you've had Mason Rudolphs, Mitch Trubisky's and whatnot. But this was mano a mano. This one was your best versus your best in this scenario with, Russell Wilson, the whole offense, the whole defense against the whole complement of the Ravens. And I think we learned some things about the Steelers, but the biggest thing we learned is that they're 8-2, buddy. Oh, does that feel good? The Ravens are at 7-4. The Bengals lost. The Browns lost. The Steelers are completely in control of their destiny, even more so now that the Buffalo Bills knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs for their first loss of the season.
That you knew that was coming. I told you knew that was coming. The Chiefs have been through black magic voodoo, finding ways to win. And, it was going to happen. They were going to drop a game. You can only live on the edge so long. And, man, they've been living on the edge. It was a good game. I watched most of that game. It was a good game. And you know me, I don't watch. If it's not the Steelers, I generally don't watch because I'm like, I have better things to do with my time. But that was going to be a good game. Plus, I wanted the Chiefs to lose. So that was a tough game. They lost. Great. Yay. So nothing else changes. I still say, I've been saying it for 3 weeks. We're going to beat them in Pittsburgh. We're going to beat them.
Very well could be. They've been getting by the skin of their teeth on a lot of these games. And it's just, we're not here to talk about them. We're just happy to see them maybe finally knocked off because it opens the door. I know the Bills are still in that window too, but we're talking about that bye week, the only bye week that's available and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Wouldn't it be sweet, if the Steelers here, we're already looking at 8 wins, Brian. We got to do a little bit of the math, though. How many games left in the season?
7.
We were talking about
7. I did the math right for once. It's 7.
I didn't even get it.
17 game schedule, 7 games left. There's 10.
Yeah,
8
there you
and 2
go.
is 10.
There you go. And it was just I was putting this up. I was just tripping over
There
my
you go.
words a little bit there. Seven games because you got the score wrong on the last game and I let it slide. I
I
was
know,
kind of
but I
like
did it
biting
on
my
purpose. I did that on purpose.
Yeah, people don't no one's gonna believe that. And I was trying to tell people, they're like, you boneheads, it was the over under. And I was like, yeah, I very clearly know that it was the over. I was just trying to mess with everybody. But hey, a little bit of that good old American education, I guess, that we got here. We were looking around the rest of the schedule though, because it's like the Steelers, if they had you don't want a total collapse, right? Obviously, you don't want to go into the playoffs not having the momentum. You've got a combo show here today for those of you listening. We are covering the Ravens post game, but also at the short week of Thursday Night Football. We're going to dive into a Cleveland Browns preview here as well. That's coming up here 8:15, Amazon Prime. Make sure you got your Prime subscription, or you hit the bar that's going to end up showing it, or you won't be able to see it. That game's at Cleveland, where the Steelers haven't been successful the last few times. I think you got to go back. I think it was before even Mason Rudolph starting there, maybe, that allowed Cleveland to get into the postseason where they haven't had success. It's another AFC opponent. It'll be tough. Then you got to go on the road for the Bengals and then host the Browns once again. So you're going to have 3 more AFC North games here, and you're going to really see how it shakes out. If they come out of this at least 3-1 at the very minimum now, let's say the next 2 games they win 2, they lose 1. And they're at a 10-3 record. That might still be good enough to not only win a division, since they have some head-to-heads, that gets you right into the postseason, provided you don't have a collapse against the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs to close that out, and then hosting the Bengals again. So it's still pretty tough schedule, pretty tough sledding as we go forward, but it looks ever the more promising as well.
Yeah, look. We pegged them to lose this game Thursday night. And I know I'm jumping ahead because we want to talk about the good stuff, which is beating the Ravens. We pegged them to lose that game. Why? Short week after Ravens week, conference game, throw out the 2 record win schedule. One of those 2 was beating the Ravens, right? It's a AFC North game. Throw the records out the window. You don't know. You just don't know, right? But I'm rethinking that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I actually thought that the Browns would have put up a bigger fight against the New Orleans Saints, and just seeing how that game played out yesterday, this is where you get stuck, because it's like, is this like a real trap game? I don't know that the Steelers are looking ahead to anybody. That's usually what a trap game is. And you can't look ahead because it's a short week, but they might be living a little bit high on the horse here. High on the hog, whatever you want to say it is, with 2 big wins against 2 big offenses. Now you got the Browns, who have been kind of middling. They've struggled to put up even 20 points in some games. But the Steelers themselves, there are some people that they probably didn't feel the most confident in Chris Boswell kicking 6 field goals. We went from Chris Boswell attempting no field goals to 6. What's up?
I'm saying I was one of them complaining about the fact that the field goals were not going to win this game. And I'll admit I was wrong, but I don't think it would have been unreasonable to think that field goals were not going to win that game.
Yeah, but Chris Boswell probably going to be, I would assume,
AFC North, AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. There's no question in my mind. And if he's not, it's rigged and it's fixed and it's all scam.
Yeah, Boswell, for the second time this season, Chris Boswell has kicked 6 field goals in a game going back to Atlanta. I know, but the Steelers left some points on the field, and at no point here, Brian, did I feel the Steelers felt in control of this game for the most part. It felt like they were going to let it slip. Russell Wilson has the turnover at the end, but they had some sustained drives. I know at the very beginning, you're waiting at any point for this to just pop off. And the Ravens do their thing where they're scoring 30-some points per game, league's top offense, et cetera, et cetera. And they just never quite materialized. There were a lot of penalties, some of them a little ticky-tack. I know I'm going to bring up Roger Jones, for example. And I know we were talking about this. It's like, how legitimate are those? I think at some games you don't get some of those called. I think in this game, maybe because of the rivalry, referee crew doing, they did a fine job because they were pretty much consistent, But there were some things that were also kind of like, okay, this is ticky-tack. Are you just going to let him play, or are we going to have to deal with this? But I wasn't like going to crap all over Broderick Jones as much as some people, because I think if it's a different game and a different crew, they probably don't even throw the flag on those.
I will agree with you. I think that the consistency level is that they were just not very good. I don't agree with you. I don't think they were very good. And I don't think they were consistent, right? Because they were choosing to let them play, in the secondary, but then they were getting ticky-tack in that. I mean, look, the Broderick Jones holding penalties are legitimate, right? If you keep your hands inside the guy's frame, you're probably not going to get called. If your hand is around the back grabbing his nameplate, you're going to get called, right? Probably. But it was, he's got it yanked around a little bit, iffy. It was iffy, but legitimate. Like, you could call it, but sometimes they don't, right? They could have called Joey for a variety of things, and they didn't. So I don't know. I thought they were very inconsistent in how they called the game. And so that was their consistency, being inconsistent.
Yeah, 100% with you there. There was something I wanted to share, and I was pulling it up. And we're almost into the Christmas season. We're not all the way there. We have to celebrate Thanksgiving first. There's another holiday that comes around. I know some people have already got their Christmas lights and trees and everything up. I am not one of those people. I apologize. But Christmas Story, Chris Boswell's leg, the lamp from Christmas Story, and then Steelers fans looking up, touching it. I don't know who this originally came from. I saw it floating around. I'd give credit if I could, but it was just so good. That. It's just so good that I had to share that because, he's got the golden leg. So
he does.
Yeah.
You are 100% right. You don't worry. Like when it's Boz 57. Oh my gosh. And Tucker's been missing the 50-yarders here. Must be the win. Maybe do it. Boz. No, not worried. We're just not worried.
Yeah.
He's so money. He's just money.
Just goes to show you who the best kicker in the NFL is, not only AFC North. I mean, not to take away from Tucker's career. He's been shaky this year, but I don't think it's just him. I think there's something going on with special teams with the Baltimore Ravens with the long snap and the hold, and that has been it's been documented in other games. He's had some struggles. A lot of people would look at this differently. Hey, if he makes those 2 field goals, well, absolutely. You also look at Russell Wilson in the red zone where they got no points. So let's go through that real quick. I wanted to point out one other thing. Well, we could go to that even with the Browns. Just remind me to come back to Ben Skoranek, who played 20 snaps, and Connor Hayward, who played 20 snaps in this game. Didn't we say something like that? We hadn't seen Connor Hayward, and then we did. Yep. So this game kicks off. Well, the Steelers win the toss and defer. So that's the very first thing that felt right about this. Thank you very much, guys. They sent Patrick Queen out for the kickoff.
9 games.
Yeah. And this game starts immediately with Deshaun Elliott on the second play, recovering a fumble after Derrick Henry got the ball punched out by Nick Herbig. Now, Derrick Henry held to 65 yards on the ground in this game.
31 in one burst.
Pretty much, yes. And if we took a look at Derrick Henry's numbers over the year, I mean, he's got 13 touchdowns already. He's got 1,185. This is a guy you minimize. This isn't a guy that you're always going to completely just stop. It's kind of the same way with Lamar Jackson. You got to bottle him up. And Lamar didn't do too much on the ground either. Let's see. Lamar was at 4 carries for 46 yards. He had the one that was a 25-yard long. So they had basically 2 big plays on the ground, either one of those guys, and they were pretty much sewn up. They got 124 yards, 2 more than the Steelers did. But who would have thought that Najee Harris, he was just on the same pace. Basically, he had 18 carries for 63 yards, and Jaylen Warren 9 for 41. That did be on the same pace with the Ravens. And likewise, Jackson, 16 to 33, 48.5% completed. I know they only got the 2 sacks. It felt like they couldn't bring him down or get to him at times, but they harassed him, just like we said. You did when you allow him to extend plays, when you allow him to use his feet, he can make some things happen. And he just was not accurate whatsoever. There was no real weather. This was perfect football weather, to be completely honest. Nice and just cool. And you're sitting in the stadium and it's like all you needed was a hoodie. The players out there are breaking a sweat when you're getting some activity in. Just the 1 touchdown for Jackson. And then he also had an interception for a 66.1 rating. It really does feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers have his number. And for the most part, that was the second lowest total for Derrick Henry for the whole season. He had 46 yards rushing in the first game of the year against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Look, I mean, you have to look at this game as close to a statement game as could be made, right? This is an offense that came in extremely high on the horse. Nobody had stopped them. Nobody out there. Chiefs, nobody's stopping them, right? Yes, the Chiefs beat them, but they're just still racking up yards, racking up points. It's just, crazy. They come in here and it's, as everybody kept saying yesterday, oh, it's going to be a different Ravens-Steelers game. It's going to be a shootout. Why? The Steelers are being able to score. The Ravens can't stop. They're scoring 1 billion points every game. They're always doing all this stuff. No, same thing. It's all, nothing but defense, which is great. Great. Love the game.
Defensively, I thought pretty good. Nick Herbig really wasn't on much of a snap count either, and Tomlin alluded to that in his earlier press conference. They felt comfortable that he was in football shape, et cetera, et cetera. Herbig plays.
Plus, he didn't need to be. They weren't on the field that much.
Yeah, 82%. They had 61 plays defensively. So yeah. Patrick Queen played every single snap. It felt good. I feel like they came out of this relatively healthy, Brian. What was it? Keanu Benton, about the only guy that got banged up from what I saw.
Yeah, and as per Tomlin's press conference today, everybody seems to be in a trajectory where they can play on Thursday. Questioning Alex Highsmith and maybe Corey Trice, but we'll see what the week brings.
Yeah, and how much of a contribution is Corey Trice going to actually make? Now, if Highsmith can play, I don't know that he starts. I know it seems weird. Maybe he starts, but he doesn't technically play. Maybe he plays 25, 30 snaps in a relief role. Preston Smith, I was going to bring up too, as the new guy, 17 plays, 28% of the game. They got Jeremiah Moon out there a little bit as well. Dean Lowry with 20 plays, 33%.
Had a nice game.
Dean Lowry did have a nice game.
Batted a couple passes, or one at least.
Loudermilk.
Nice game.
So they rotated. They rotated the guys up front. Cam Hayward, 39 plays, 64% of the game, just a little bit over half. Benton, of course, we saw maybe leave. He had 31, and he played a little bit about half of the game there. That important, folks. 21 snaps. Peyton Wilson, who had a nice interception. We'll come back to that in a moment. It felt like it's like one of those games where, Mike Tomlin knows the load management, knowing there's a Thursday game behind it. We've mentioned it before. Can you get contributions and at what time from other players? And it was pretty tight, but at times it wasn't so much. The Steelers were at least in control, 8 points. You put it on the Ravens, they have to score a touchdown and go for 2 at the end. It would have felt nice to have a 2-score cushion. They didn't quite get that. I did want to point out too, as far as Lamar Jackson's totals for the game, it was his third fewest passing yards in a game, but they had victories against the Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills where he didn't need to throw the ball as much. So offensively, Pittsburgh Steelers, or I should say defensively, against the Ravens offense with their fewest total yards, 329 for the whole year. Also the most turnovers by the Ravens offense with 3 in this game. Steelers defense legit. You've got all of the people the talking heads, the national people that are on all these different programs now, except for Chris Sims still. He's on like the Sunday night game. Oh, he's still like, you can tell that like he's like wincing in his seat. It's like it pains him to have to admit he's wrong about the Steelers. There's a couple of haters out there like that,
Our friend, our Twitter friend out there, the cynical optimist guy, he's like, are they going to give us credit? And I said, no, let him not. Fuel the rage. Keep doubting them. Keep saying, it's smoke and mirrors. They're not that good. Go ahead. Keep doing it.
Yeah, that's why I keep saying, and you've got, when you've got guys like TJ Watt, people are like, where is TJ Watt? Well, he comes around in sneaky ways throughout the game. And you've always got to keep an eye on him. You've always got to have somebody pitch in and help. And the Steelers, just their defensive line, the other guys did enough of a job. I mean, Herbig got in there too. Preston Smith got some pressure. Isaiah Loudermilk got his hand on a football at one point. It was a lot of promising stuff. So the Steelers end up they get in the red zone. They didn't have the most red zone success. And let's just talk a little bit about Baltimore's defense. Mike Tomlin alluded to this. He said that worst passing defense thing. We talked about this, I think, Brian. Well, I may have talked about it in the pregame since I was solo. It was on paper because the game script, when you've got the team that's putting up the most yards, the most points on offense, a lot of teams are playing catch up. They're playing from behind. Now they have to throw the ball more. And maybe Baltimore's just laying back a little bit and they're giving up like gobs of yards as the Steelers did. The Steelers are prone to doing the same, but it's a break, don't bend. You've got the game in control, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think that defensively you did see that with Baltimore. It looked like the Steelers' offensive line at times was struggling, especially early on. We know that some of the possessions, especially, I think you had texted me this, after the first field goal, you had a 3-and-out on both sides. The Steelers, they go 4 plays out. They went for it on fourth down. Well, third down, they were unable to get the yardage that was needed, right?
That was Wilson's sneak that wasn't sneaky.
It wasn't very sneaky. And then Najee out of shotgun, which I'm like, put Jalen Warren back there at least.
Yeah.
But to the credit, later on in the game, and people were asking, and they received, and there was a nice little cheer for number 2, Justin Fields came out there. Now, your Baltimore Ravens, they don't have this really on film because there have been no Justin Fields only packages. But you got to know what's coming here. Now, he does have a threat to throw it. There could be some RPO stuff. But holy cow, man. I mean, I get it. Russell Wilson's 35 years of age. He's not a spring chicken anymore. But, man, is Justin Fields just a total athlete, right?
But I'm just going to say this. Take 2 more steps.
Yeah, the one that's later.
Take 2 more steps before you slide.
Yeah, right? It's where you begin the slide, as people know. Tomlin also gave some kudos before that. Corliss Waitman, he had some booming punts too. He had a 51-yarder before that we need to acknowledge. Tucker missed 50-yard field goal, but you've got Boswell just hitting some really nice kicks. I'm going to keep going through the game book and breeze through this just a little bit, and then we're going to be on to the Cleveland Browns. But the Ravens were pretty much bottled up. They had the 2 missed field goals on the 2 drives. Plays are series of 5 plays, 46 yards, 6 plays, 14 yards after the turnover on downs. And then they were forced to punt a few times before they finally scored a touchdown. Steelers had their number of punts too. In fact, they only had the opening drive that was a little bit shorter due to the turnover, 8 plays, 28 yards with the field goal, and then 10 plays, 50 yards for another field goal attempt before they had one again before half. So it was just field goal, field goal, field goal. But it was like 3 plays -2, 3 plays 9 yards. They had some penalties that were setting them back. But the Ravens were doing just as much to hurt themselves there. And of course, that fumble near the end of the half, they run one play, put it on the floor, and that's all it took. Boswell ends up with another 32-yard field goal, a little pitch shot, or a little short pooch kick. And they go into halftime, and they're up 9-7. It still doesn't make you feel entirely comfortable. But again, it wasn't like, this still doesn't feel like the game's even earlier this season. It doesn't feel like the game's going back to Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, where you felt, oh no, Baltimore's going to come out here and completely kick us in the ass in the second half. And, that didn't happen. And the Steelers also start and get to try and set the pace to begin the third quarter as well. Chris Boswell, 57-yard field goal, which was pretty nice. 8 plays, 31 yards, 4 minutes off the clock. They got to give the defense a little extra rest. And it was good to see. It was 12-7 before Tucker finally makes his first field goal on the ensuing series. 11 plays, 34 yards, a 54-yarder from Tucker.
Yeah, I think I'm sure I texted you this mid-game. The offensive line is disappointing to me, right? I get it. The Ravens are really focused on stopping the run game because the run game predicates how we do our passing game. It's a lot of different things. But, man, there just was nothing there. And really what bothers me is that they have been really poor at pass protection. At time, I don't know whether it's miscommunication. I don't know whether it's just trying to get that synchronicity that an offensive line truly needs to be great. Whatever it is, they haven't gotten there yet. I am hopeful. I'm still hopeful that they're going to get there. But man, it was not a pretty game from a pass rush standpoint. There was no time a lot of the time. And I was glad to see them adjust to that in the second half and start, instead of trying to hit the long ball all the time, trying to, take what they could get, throw it, get the ball out quicker. Obviously helped a lot. You just can't, they are not holding up great. And this is it's a good Ravens defensive front. Don't get me wrong. They're going to play another good defensive front, at least, not as good as it would have been if they'd kept Zadarius Smith, but still a good defensive front. So, they expect to see hopefully the same mentality next week, or this Thursday, I should say.
Yeah. So part of that too, as we continue on, you get into the third quarter, like I said, the 57-yard field goal, Justin Tucker, he matches, it's 12-10. It's still going back and forth. It's a much better heavyweight fight than Jake Paul and Mike Tyson was. There were
just dumb.
There was actual punches being thrown in this one, though, at least.
It was just dumb. Yeah, I didn't watch it, but it was dumb.
I already knew that going in. It was cool. You know what? It was cool to see Aaron Mike try it again. The guy had blood transfusions. He had some major medical problems headed into that. The fact that he could even duel with somebody that was less than half his age. I think somebody whispered in his ear when he went to the corner after the first quarter. It's like, don't kill this guy. You guys are making 20 to 40 million a piece, whatever the purse was on it and whatever. But aside from that, this was the real one. You had two really, really good damn games yesterday on Sunday, because they had the Bills and the Chiefs right after, and then a lot of people were at halftime, they were like, why'd they flex this Chargers Bengals game into Sunday night? And then the Bengals end up coming all the way back and tying it up after being down 21. So it was really interesting. But the Steelers, they had a chance to really close this out, and they couldn't do it in the red zone after they go up 15-10. It was Boswell 27-yard field goal. They gotten the ball all the way down to Baltimore's 8-yard line, and they just couldn't connect. This was one where Russell Wilson throws one over by Van Jefferson's direction. They don't come down with it. There was another one with Pickens at some point during this stretch where maybe they were fighting for it. Maybe there was could have been pass interference, but you didn't get the call. And, I think the referees just were we're just not going to make this type of call that could decide the game. And you're just, oh man, it's just maybe Lamar, maybe this Baltimore Ravens team is going to squeak back in this, right? And they open up the fourth quarter. They get the ball back from Baltimore, and Roquan Smith is now out of the game as the Steelers have it down at the 5-yard line of the Baltimore Ravens. Najee couldn't get anything. Russ ends up throwing it away. Had some pressure from Kyle Van Noy. Or great, just don't make any mistakes. Another field goal here probably puts this game enough out of reach that then you don't have to worry about this. It's 15-10, it's 18-10, and it's you got to force this team to go the whole distance and get a 2-point conversion. And Russ ends up getting intercepted, trying to look for Darnell Washington, who had some nice plays in this game, got utilized, but ultimately the big man, I don't know if there was miscommunication, if Russ was trying to throw it away, throw it up for grabs with him, whatever be the case.
Oh, he was definitely trying to put it up for Darnell to make a play. And I just think Darnell was not in a good position to see the ball, because he just looked like, what? He didn't, I used to give Deontay a lot of crap for not protecting his quarterback, and I will give Darnell the same crap for that right there. But I don't know that he was even in position to make the play, or knew that the ball was coming until it was kind of maybe too late. I know Tomlin got one of the reporters tried to get him to say that. I don't think Darnell made enough of an effort. And I'll say the same thing Tomlin said. I just wish Russ hadn't thrown it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And you're like, uh-oh. And then the most unlikely thing ends up happening. Lamar's looking for Justice Hill. They get out just about where the logo is, and Peyton Wilson somehow comes down with the ball, and you're just like, did that really happen? You watch the officials on the sideline. That was over where I was seated, and you see the catch, signal, and you see him point the other way, and you're just like, no way, that just didn't happen, right? Like, what hell of a play.
Unbelievable play. I've told you, we've both been saying this. That kid is coming on.
You
it's
more
no
even
longer,
than me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's no longer, the game is slowing down. It's more than that. He's just playing ball now. I'm very excited about what the future could hold for Peyton Wilson.
Yeah, but then the teams are still shooting themselves in the foot, right? Too many men on the field, and then you give it right back because Connor Hayward flinches. Legitimate penalty there, no doubt. They end up converting. Darnell Washington makes a play here. You get a couple of first downs. This was one where they tried to go deep to George Pickens. That's the one I was just referencing with Tre'Davious White. Mm-hmm. That could have been a ceiling touchdown. Instead, it's a 50-yard field goal by Boswell. They get the 3 this time to make it that 8-point game. And now you're like, what's going to happen? Well, Baltimore is going to take the ball. They're going to go 9 plays, 69 yards. They're going to go down. They're going to score a touchdown. And then they got to go for 2. And they've got to go for it. There's a minute 11 left on the clock when he finds Zay Flowers for the 16-yard touchdown completion. They're going to go for 2. Tomlin calls a timeout. You're like, why? Because if they get 2 here, you're going to need those timeouts, and then maybe you could get just enough, and Boswell's been kicking all day long. You just kick the game winner, right? I don't know what Lamar was looking for. I don't know if this was a pass play. I don't know if this was a run
jump
play.
Pass. Oh, on this one?
Joey Porter.
Oh,
yeah. What on earth? Joey Porter ends up making the play at the end, but he heaves a ball like if my daughter would have been back when she was 5, 6 years old, underhanded, trying to throw it up and hit the basketball hoop. He just like threw it up. Like, I don't even know where it was going. It was like one of those things where Andy Dalton used to get like scared and throw the ball away so he didn't commit a turnover. And that's what it looked like to me. And I'm like, you can't do that. It's a 2-point, but thank you so much for folding like the chairs you use to reserve parking spaces all over town. And, I like that confused me, but I was like, thank you, sir. Or thank you, Mr. Jackson, as Mike Tomlin would say.
Yes. Thank you. I'm quite happy that you panicked and threw the ball up in the air and it didn't do. Look, the Steelers defended that very well. It was an excellent timeout. There was going to be a jump pass. Who knows how that was going to go, right? The quick little jump pass was what they were going to do in the 2-point conversion. To me, I know Harbaugh was asked, why didn't you have Derrick Henry in? Thank you for not having Derrick Henry in on the 2-point conversion. I'm quite glad that you don't have, of your top 2 2-point conversion plays, neither one involves Derrick Henry. Very good. Thank you. I think you're a great coach. It's amazing. But it's look, I mean, they just played it. Nick Herbig played it very well. Joey Porter played it very well. They defended it very well. Turned out the way it should have.
Yeah. Yet another one where they've had the 2-point conversion opportunity, trying this time to tie, not to win. And it ends up in a loss for them. And then you have the selflessness, team first, with Russell Wilson coming off the field. And like we were saying, Justin Fields goes out there and it's like, what do you think Justin Fields is going to do? What is Mike Tomlin got up his sleeve here? It's like he's most likely going to hold on to the ball. They're not going to pass the ball. They're going to force you to burn all of your timeouts. And he had a chance to seal the deal there. It just came up just short, but you know what? It was just enough that Najee was able to just secure that extra yard that was needed. Victory formation, top of the AFC North. If I'm not mistaken, Brian, now a 2-game lead.
Game and a half.
Game and a half because they haven't taken the bye yet.
Yes. That's why earlier I asked you when their bye was, because if we don't lose, and if everything stays the same, we don't lose a game before then it'll be a 2-game lead when they get to their bye.
Yeah, a week 14 bye for the Ravens. So they still have a couple of weeks. We're heading into week 12 now. Thursday Night Football, Cleveland Browns, who just traveled to New Orleans, and they're facing some of their own adversity. They lost pretty handedly to the New Orleans Saints. I was pulling up the final score here. I almost wanted to say 18-16. I'm like, nope, that's the wrong game. 35-14. Jameis Winston revenge game didn't really turn out that way. I mean, you know what? He threw the ball all over the field, right? Though Browns are struggling for other reasons. He took 3 sacks. Winston did. He almost had 400 yards passing, 30 of 46, 2 touchdowns, a 106 rating. But Derek Carr, 2 touchdowns of his own, 248 yards, 21 to 27, 77.8 completion percentage. They let Taysom Hill run 7 times for 138 yards. Alvin Kamara, 16 for 67. The Saints had over 200 yards rushing, over 200 yards. Taysom Hill also had a pass completion, 266 yards combined there. It's just wow. And you had some performances. The Steelers defense will have to button up, certainly better than the Saints are. But you're looking at this like, okay, offensively with the Browns, are you afraid of Jameis Winston? He's got Jerry Jeudy, he's got David Njoku could do some damage. He's been having a pretty solid season. Elijah Moore, you got the rookie Tillman, who's that's the reason they got rid of Amari Cooper. Tillman had been having some pretty big games up until this one, only 3 catches for 47 yards. But as far as the Browns offense passing, yeah, they're doing pretty okay there. Their offensive line, it's been in flux. DeJuan Jones has like a fracture or something in his leg, so he's now on injured reserve. His season's, well, I don't think he's been officially placed there, but that's where he's headed. His season's over. So they're going to maybe, Jedrick Wills might have to fill in for him. He was inactive yesterday. He has been having his own struggles, and they've just gotten some guys back and forth. You still got the Wyatt Tellers, Joe Batonio, Ethan Posick, and did I say Wyatt Teller already? Or no, Jack Conklin.
You did.
Jack Conklin's the other. So you've got all of these guys, but like I said, when the elder Callahan went and joined his son Brian down in Tennessee, who became the head coach there, I said this wasn't going to be the same Browns team, and they have struggled. They only ran the ball 20 times for 66 yards in this game. Nick Chubb, who was activated a few weeks ago, has not been the Nick Chubb pre-injury when he injured his leg and was lost for the season in Pittsburgh last year. So you go up to Cleveland, hostile environment, as Mike Tomlin said. He was saying maybe the fans don't buy up as many tickets. I don't know. It's because it's a Thursday night game. If that was Sunday, it's probably another invasion. It's also one of those games where you know that the fans are going to make a buck because it's the Steelers coming to town, right? When they sell their tickets, they might actually be able to make some money. It's a whole new dynamic. These teams are a little different. It's Jameis Winston versus Russell Wilson. And it's hard to imagine a scenario where the Steelers don't keep this momentum rolling now, because usually it's against the team traveling on a Thursday night, but it is also a bus trip. It is a little bit shorter of a week, and they don't have as many wounds to lick as they may have in past Thursday night encounters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing I said earlier, which is it's an AFC North game. Ravens flying high, landed in Cleveland. Guess what? Lost. Right? You never know what can happen. They need to be on their P's and Q's. They need to be just as focused in this game as they were in the last game. It is absolutely not unheard of for the Cleveland Browns to really want to just be spoilers, right? They don't like the Steelers. We know that. We don't like them. We know that. It would make their season that much better, the garbage dumpster fire that it has been, if they could knock the Steelers off their pedestal, right? This is the games against the Ravens, the games against the Steelers are going to be like their Super Bowls, because they got nothing else to play for. They're not making the playoffs. Doesn't matter whether they win out the rest of their games. They're not making the playoffs. And so this is what they've got. They've got the chance to be spoilers, and they will want to. There's no question about it. I think you have to take Jameis Williams seriously, right? Jerry Jeudy's a legitimate threat. Njoku, Chubb, the offense, much better now that they actually have a quarterback who can play a little bit, as opposed to the one that couldn't play at all.
Yeah.
I think they should win this game, right? I think that Russ is a difference than when you had a Kenny Pickett, than when you had a Mitch Trubisky, if you had a Mason Rudolph, right? Russ is a veteran, right? Russ is going to come through this and say, keep focused. This is what we need to do. This is where our mission is. This is what we're trying to do. Hopefully they can run the ball. If they can run the ball, then I'm going to feel much more comfortable about them pulling a win out.
Yeah, that's going to be the big one. The Browns, there's only 2 games where they haven't given up at least 100 yards on the ground, and one of those was 96 to the Chargers. They've only, they're a 2-win team this year. They're 2-8. They just dropped 473 yards to the Saints yesterday, which was just unbelievable. They're giving up. I'm going to pull up and see where their rankings are. Let's see if this is updated. But they have given up, offensively, they've only scored more than 20 points in one game, and surprisingly, that was against Baltimore. Defensively, they've given up over 30 points 3 times to the Saints, Commanders, and Cowboys. 27 to the Chargers, 24 to the Ravens in the one game that they did win. They've even given up 21 points to the Giants and Bengals, 20 apiece to the Raiders and Eagles, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Whew, what a bad team they are, Brian. Yikes, their worst loss ever against the Detroit, who just keeps scoring, dropping 50 points on everybody in a game. But that's about the only game where the Browns, that was week 2, where the Browns, one of their only victories, they won 18-13. So when you take a look at the tail of the tape here, we obviously know about the Myles Garretts of the world and some of the players that are on the Browns defense, but the Browns are 31st in scoring offense. They're 24th in scoring defense, whereas the Steelers are 14th offensively, and I believe they're like second that game may have dropped them, but heading into yesterday's game, they were second or third. They were right behind the Commanders and Ravens after Russell Wilson became the starter. So they had been scoring points. It just weren't scoring a lot earlier in the season. Continuing on here, the takeaway differential, the Browns are -5. So this, once again, this could be a TJ Watt game. We know Jameis Winston likes to cough up the football and he throws interceptions. He's prone to fumble. We'll take a look at his sack totals here in a second. Passing wise, the Browns are 20th in passing offense, 29th in rushing offense. They defensively are 17th against the pass, and they are 24th against the run. Steelers are still pretty low on the passing end of things with only 187 per game. That ranks them at 28th. They're 8th in rushing. That's where they want to be. The identity has been run the football, play good defense. 19th against the pass, 4th against the run. I mean, this just goes to show you that the team that's going to run the football in this game is going to be the team that I think that comes out the victor. Usually after you play the Ravens, it's been very physical. After you play the Browns, it's going to be another physical game. So as long as the Steelers aren't completely tired out of this one, travel otherwise, I just think that they've got more bodies to substitute, put into rotation, sub packages, and probably still maintain a certain talent level if they have to play a Preston Smith, if they have to play Dean Lowry, even if Corey Trace or James Pierre has to come in for a spell in the secondary, or using Beanie Bishop as another guy to cover one of these 3 talented wide receivers, or have to cover one of these tight ends. It's hard to not feel confident about this. Browns 1-4 at home this year too, which is it's not the stronghold. This was a playoff team last year. Not the same thing. They're still in flux. Kevin Stefanski gave up play calling duties on the offense. They did some of that to try and shield and protect Deshaun Watson's lack of performance. He gets hurt. They have one decent game with Jameis Winston. Now you've got film on that guy, and it looks like, the floodgates are open for everybody to still, for the Browns to be the punching bag here.
I'm hopeful, right? I hope that, the downside is, on a short week, you don't have as much time to get through the tape as you would. It would have been nice, considering it's sort of a new offense for them, to have a little more time. But I really just, I don't expect the Steelers to go lay an egg in Cleveland at this point. When you went back to our original predictions, we're basing that off of last year, right? We're expecting the Browns defense to be a top tier defense, and they have not been this year. They have a lot of talent. Don't get me wrong. They could be a top tier defense. They just aren't playing like one. Maybe that's because their offense has stunk up. Maybe it's because they've dropped some people off the lineup. Whatever the reasons are, they are not playing at that level that they were last year. And as a result, it's realistic to change the way you expect this game to go. I expected them to split with the Browns at the beginning of the year, and now I expect them to sweep the Browns. And I'll be surprised if they don't. Even though I've said it's an AFC North game and anything can happen, my expectation is that they win this game.
Yeah, Myles Garrett leads the team in sacks with 7. Darius Smith, who's no longer with the team and was traded to the Detroit Lions, is still the second leading guy getting after the quarterback with 5. There's nobody on this roster with double-digit quarterback hits other than Myles Garrett as well, including that designation with Smith. Smith was the guy, and I was just like, well, they've kind of packed this in. Now they still have Delvin Tomlinson on the defensive line. He's somebody that could create some pressure. He has 3 sacks on the season, 7 quarterback pressures, and then Shelby Harris. We know these guys along the front. You've got the younger player, Okonkwo. It's opposite defensive end filling in for Smith now. He's taken his spot, and he has 3 sacks over the course of the season too. They have some guys in the secondary. I think there's some guys you could actually pick on if you're the Steelers offense. You take a look at, I've never been the biggest fan of Juan Thornhill. I think Grant Delpit's a pretty solid player. He's pretty fast. He gets to the ball. Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson, and Denzel Ward. Now, Denzel Ward's another guy you got to be careful of. He's in the same territory of like Marlon Humphrey. He could be disruptive all over the field. He could create turnovers. In fact, he finally ended his drought against the Saints and got one yesterday. Emerson was playing above the line for a while, and Newsome, I believe, has been playing below the line. He's a guy that just didn't pan out where they originally intended him, but still first-round talent players. I think one area, though, is they're missing Wasu Koromoa. He's on injured reserve, and I think that's where you could use guys such as Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth, attack the middle of the field, maybe George Pickens. Maybe you put him in the slot. You force Newsome. I don't know if Ward's going to follow him around. The real strange thing where you take from the Ravens game to take away into this was, Mike Williams got some snaps, right? Almost like a decoy. He didn't have any targets that came his way. Williams ends up playing 25 snaps. And it was funny because in the post game, I noticed this too. Ben Skowronek ends up playing 20. We mentioned that earlier, right? 26%. Yep. But he didn't out-snap Mike Williams, but Mike Williams didn't get a target in this game either. So Mike Williams, you got to look his way. Calvin Austin, when the ball comes, when your number's called, just come down with the catch. I don't have a problem. I think Calvin Austin is an emerging player. I don't think he's somebody that you should just kind of turn your nose up at. But Van Jefferson playing 43 snaps in this game, I think that's more of Calvin Austin's a little guy. Mike Williams, is he a guy that wants to get in there and block? I mean, George Pickens isn't necessarily that guy all the time either. So you have Scotty Miller playing 7 snaps. You have Ben Skowronek playing 20. And that's because these are the guys you're going to use, the wide receivers, to block and run game. But you can't just send them out in a huddle so that Cleveland sees, oh, there's Ben Skowronek. We know they're going to run the football.
Well, it used to be when the same problem we have when 13 was on the field, right? Mm-hmm. Number 13's on the field, they're going to run.
yeah, almost all the time it was that way. So, it's really hard to be bullish. Usually when we felt this way, we end up with egg on our face after the game. But that'll about do it for any pregame because there's no, it's going to be short, limited practice windows. Just keep an eye on the injury reports. We'll have those over at steelcityunderground.com. I kind of feel like this is one of those games. Like, it's not like with the Ravens where I'm like, okay, one team that scores 20 points for sure is probably going to win this. They're going to just kind of drag themselves over the finish line. I think the Steelers offense, if they're not like, if this was a Sunday game, they had the full preparation, they had the full rest. I'm like, they're going to put up 30. I think they're going to fall just short of that, but I think they're going to put up more than 20. They could be in the 28 range. I don't see the Browns offense putting up over 20 points on the Steelers defense. I think that's going to be the deciding factor. Even if they have to go back to Boswell and have him kick another 6 field goals, I'm pretty confident in saying that I think the Steelers can come away with a win in Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think that they should come away with a win in Cleveland. It would boggle the mind to see them put up 20 plus points against this defense. Don't want to say it's impossible. You never know. We turn the ball over. We do the wrong things. Anything is feasible. But, if they still play tight, they play mistake-free or low mistake football, they should come out of there with a win.
Yep, I'm with you, buddy. Hey, thanks for joining us once again, Brian, and hats off to you. It's one of these short weeks. We got to cram everything in. It's going to be nice, though.
Maybe we're doing post game on Friday. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll have a post game probably for you before the weekend, and we'll be looking at this mini bye week. The Steelers, they go on the road, and then what do we have right after this, Brian? Is it Cincinnati
Browns again.
Browns,
We got the Bengals. We got
Browns
the
at home.
Bengals, then the Browns at home.
Yeah, Bengals and Browns coming up. So it's kind of messy because we were looking at this on the schedule earlier, where no, they go to the Bengals. They go to the Bengals December 1st, Thanksgiving weekend, and the Bengals will end up having a full bye week, where the Steelers just have the mini bye after the Thursday game, but all of these AFC North games, and then the Browns at home. I know we've looked at this so many damn times. It's like they just stay in Ohio for a month. It's like Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland. You know what I mean? They're not going very far for the whole thing. And after they get done with the home Browns game, then you get into the rigmarole with Philadelphia, at Baltimore. But, I mean, it would be nice if they were able to sweep all of this. If this would be a little bit different if they were facing like Joe Burrow. They have T. Higgins healthy there in Cincinnati, Jamar Chase, like a lot of wide receivers to cover a team that puts up a lot of points. It's able to score quickly and do things on offense, at least in the air. But this isn't. This Browns team has just been, they've been putting up like some garbage time points, and that's about the best it's been. If they bottle up the run, I don't see Jameis Winston doing a whole lot. Steelers just got to be mistake-free football. As long as Russell Wilson doesn't turn the football over, which, you know, he isn't very, it was very shocking to see that turnover that he had. The other one, like I said, the week before where he threw the long pass, big deal. That was that I'm not worried about that. And the one where he fumbled, he got punched in the face. That's going to happen to, 9 out of 10, maybe every quarterback in the NFL. The same kind of duress. I also thought he may have got the face mask yanked too when he threw that interception or somewhere in there. And it was just kind of, well, they looked the other way kind of thing, but they'll have that. You got to play through it. And just limit the mistakes. There wasn't as many third and manageables in this game as they would probably have liked, and they had earlier. Maybe we see another Justin Fields package. Maybe we even see it in the red zone, which
that would be nice.
As long as he just protect the football. Fields hasn't made many mistakes this year either, so he's been playing smart football. But folks, that'll do it for us today. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us wherever you may be watching or listening, and leave us a rating and review. We very much so appreciate it. Once again, a thank you to my buddy, Mr. Brian E. Roach. My name is Joe Kuzma. And any closing thoughts, Brian? Seems like you had something else.
No, I don't have anything else. I literally I have nothing to give the 2%ers today.
Okay.
I'm too happy to be upset.
Yeah, that's good, man. Except for you didn't like Wrigley Field, so it spoiled your weekend. It spoiled your weekend. But anyways,
well, it didn't spoil, but it was annoying.
Oh man, the college announcers annoy me more than anything. And I think it's been a funny trend this year. If you've watched the Sunday night football games, Collinsworth says something, and it's immediately like the football gods are like, nope, you're wrong. And then the opposite happens on the field. And he acknowledged it last night. He goes, how does that happen? He has like a perfect batting record with it. And even, was it Mike Tirico that does the play-by-play with him? Even acknowledged that too. And they had a good laugh. I thought that was pretty cool. So, all right, folks.
I refuse to say anything is cool that involves Chris Collinsworth.
Well, it's not cool for him that he's wrong, but it was cool to laugh at him. we really don't like it. He's a Bengals guy. He's a Bengals homer, right? But it's more or less, he also owns that Pro Football Focus, who gave Broderick Jones like an 86 rating or something the week before. And you're like, how could that possibly be? Am I reading this properly? Like whatever it was, I'd be curious to see what that grade was. I didn't sniff around. I'm not hunting for it. I think Broderick will end up being okay, maybe. But Dan Moore's been playing all right too. There was a time, I will bring this up with the Ravens. They sent a corner blitz and Moore kind of got his body just enough in the way that it didn't affect the Steelers. I forgot who they actually sent on the blitz on that one side. Could have been Humphrey, could have been Stevens. I don't remember. But he was also picking up the rusher on that. He got a hat on a hat, but he did just enough that gap was supposed to go blow wide open. And in past years, you would see Dan Moore just go all the way over, ignore that guy, and he would be unabated to the quarterback, as they say, right? Didn't happen in this game, and that was very tough. It's like, how do you get one body on two different guys? And he did just enough to be disruptive, and they were able to they kind of picked up the blitz from there and were able to get rid of the football. So been happy with Dan Moore. It'll be interesting. There's even rumblings, guys like Craig Wolfley and Charlie Batch. Don't just assume this guy's going to be gone and out the door next year. We just got to hope, that Broderick Jones continues to develop. Got a very young offensive line here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're going to be up to test with this front four. I won't say full front seven. I'm not sold on these linebackers, especially with JOK on the shelf with the Cleveland Browns. He's a huge part of what they need to do defensively and a reason why they were unable to stop the run against the New Orleans Saints. So push everybody else around, protect yourselves from Myles Garrett, pick up the win in Cleveland. Folks, they'll do it for us. My name's Joe. His name's Brian. Until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.